Sometimes the universe has a cruel sense of timing. Just when you finally find the strength to move forward, it brings back everything you fought so hard to forget. This is a story about love, loss, and the painful beauty of second chances. If this story touches your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring tales that remind us we're not alone in our struggles. Daniel stood at the edge of the bridge, watching the city lights flicker against the dark water below. It had been exactly 3 years, 2 months, and 17 days since Emma walked out of his life. He knew because he had counted every single one of those days like a prisoner marking time on a cell wall. But tonight was different. Tonight he wasn't here to mourn, he was here to finally say goodbye. He pulled the small velvet box from his pocket, the engagement ring inside catching the moonlight. He had bought it a week before she left, planning the perfect proposal. That proposal never happened. Instead, Emma had sat across from him at their favorite coffee shop and said the words that shattered his world. "I can't do this anymore, Daniel. I need to find myself, and I can't do that with you." Daniel had spent the first year angry at her for leaving, angry at himself for not being enough, angry at the world for being so unfair. He had replayed every conversation, every moment, searching for the exact instant where things went wrong. He called her dozens of times until her number was disconnected. He drove past her apartment until she moved away without a trace. He became a ghost of himself, going through the motions of living while feeling absolutely nothing inside. The second year brought a different kind of pain. The anger faded into a deep, hollow sadness that settled in his chest like a stone. He stopped eating properly. He stopped seeing friends. His work suffered, and he barely noticed when he was passed over for a promotion. His sister Claire tried everything to pull him out of the darkness, but Daniel had built walls so high that no one could reach him. Every song reminded him of Emma. Every place they had visited together became a landmine of memories. He was drowning in a sea of what-ifs and if-onlys. But then something shifted in the third year. It started small. One morning, Daniel woke up and didn't immediately think of her. He went to a new coffee shop instead of their old one. He accepted Claire's invitation to her daughter's birthday party and found himself genuinely laughing at the children's antics. Slowly, painfully, he began to rebuild himself. He started running every morning, pushing his body until his mind went quiet. He threw himself into his work with new intensity and finally earned that promotion. He even went on a few dates, though none of them felt quite right. His therapist, Dr. Martinez, had told him about the concept of radical acceptance. "You can't control what happened," she said during one of their sessions, "but you can control what you do next." Sometimes letting go isn't about forgetting. It's about accepting that some chapters end so new ones can begin. Those words had become Daniel's mantra. He repeated them every time the pain threatened to pull him under again. And now, standing on this bridge, Daniel felt ready to let go of the anger, the sadness, the endless questions that had no answers. He opened the velvet box one last time, looking at the ring that represented all his broken dreams. Then, with a deep breath, he threw it into the dark water below. He watched it disappear with a tiny splash, and with it went 3 years of holding on to something that was never coming back. "Goodbye, Emma," he whispered into the night. For the first time in years he felt light, free. The weight that had been crushing his chest lifted, and he could finally breathe. Daniel smiled, a real genuine smile, and turned to walk back to his car. Tomorrow, he decided, he would delete all. Her photos. He would pack up the box of her things he had kept in his closet. He would finally, truly move on. But as he reached his car, his phone buzzed. An unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him swipe to accept the call. "Hello?" There was a pause, then a voice he never thought he would hear again. A voice that made his heart stop and his newly found peace shatter into a million pieces. "Daniel? It's me. It's Emma. I know I have no right to call, but I'm at the airport. I just flew back into town and I really need to see you, please." Daniel's hand trembled as he gripped the phone. The universe, it seemed, had the cruelest sense of timing indeed. He stood frozen in the parking lot, torn between the man he had been 5 minutes ago, ready to move forward, and the man he had been for 3 years, desperately wanting her back. "Daniel, are you there?" Her voice cracked with emotion. "I made a terrible mistake. I've spent these years trying to find myself, and all I found was that I lost the only person who ever really mattered. I know it's not fair to ask, but can we talk? Just talk?" He should say no. He should hang up and drive away. He had just thrown that ring into the river, symbolically closing that chapter. But his heart, that traitorous heart, was already racing at the sound of her voice. All the therapy, all the healing, all the progress seemed to evaporate in an instant. "Where are you?" he heard himself say. "I'm at the Marriott downtown, room 412. But, Daniel, I understand if you don't want to see me. I had to try. I had to tell you that leaving you was the biggest mistake of my life." He hung up without answering and sat in his car, hands gripping the steering wheel. His mind was at war with his heart. The logical part of him screamed to go home, to protect the progress he had made. But another part, the part that had never stopped loving her despite everything, pulled him toward downtown. 20 minutes later, Daniel stood outside room 412. His hand hovered over the door, ready to knock, but he paused. What was he doing? This woman had destroyed him. She had left him without looking back, without answering his calls, without caring that she had ripped his heart out. He had just freed himself from her ghost, and here he was, ready to let her back in. But before he could turn away, the door opened. Emma stood there, and time seemed to stop. She looked different. Her hair was shorter, there were new lines around her eyes, but she was still undeniably her. Tears streamed down her face as she looked at him. "You came," she whispered. They sat in her hotel room, an awkward distance between them on the couch. Emma explained everything. How she had run away because she was scared of commitment, scared of losing herself in a relationship like her mother had. How she had traveled to 12 different countries, searching for some kind of meaning or purpose. How she had tried to build a new life in California, dated other people, pursued her art career, checked off every item on her bucket list. But none of it filled the void. None of it felt like home. "I was sitting in this beautiful cafe in Paris," she said, her voice thick with emotion, surrounded by everything I thought I wanted. "And all I could think about was that you would have loved the pastries there, that you would have made some nerdy joke about the architecture, that every beautiful moment felt empty because you weren't there to share it with me." Daniel listened, his face unreadable. Part of him wanted to hold her, to tell her everything was forgiven. But another part, the part that had learned to protect itself, remained cautious. "You left me, Emma," he said quietly. "You didn't just leave. You vanished. You changed your number. You didn't answer any of my messages. Do you know what that did to me? I lost myself for 2 years. I became someone I didn't recognize. I know," she sobbed. "I was a coward. I thought a clean break would be easier for both of us. I didn't realize I was just running from my own fears and blaming them on you. You deserve so much better than what I did to you." "Why now?" Daniel asked, the question that burned in his chest. "Why after 3 years? I've just started to heal, Emma. I literally just let go tonight. I threw the engagement ring I bought for you into the river an hour ago." Emma's eyes widened. "You kept it all this time?" "Until tonight, yes, and now you're here, and I don't know what you expect from me." They talked for hours. Emma shared everything about her journey, the therapy she had gone through, the work she had done on herself. She didn't make excuses, but she helped him understand the scared, confused person she had been. Daniel shared his own journey, the darkness he had walked through, the slow, painful climb back to the light. They cried together, laughed at bittersweet memories, and slowly, the walls between them began to crumble. As dawn broke through the hotel room windows, Daniel stood to leave. Emma grabbed his hand. "I'm not asking you to take me back," she said. "I'm not asking you to forget what I did, but I'm asking for a chance to show you that I've changed, that I've grown, that I finally understand what I lost and what really matters. Can we start as friends? Can we just see where this goes?" Daniel looked at their intertwined hands, then at her hopeful, tear-stained face. Every logical cell in his body told him to walk away. But his heart, that healing but still hopeful heart, whispered something different. "I can't promise anything," he said finally. "I can't promise that I can trust you again, or that this won't just break me all over again. But I can promise to try. We can start slow. Coffee, maybe." Emma's face lit up with a smile that reminded him of all the reasons he had fallen in love with her in the first place. Over the following months, they rebuilt their connection piece by piece. Coffee dates turned into dinners. Dinners turned into long walks, where they talked about everything and nothing. Daniel kept his guard up, and Emma respected his boundaries. She proved through actions, not just words, that she had changed. She was patient when he pulled away, understanding when doubt crept into his eyes, and steady in her commitment to earning back his trust. But it wasn't easy. There were setbacks. One night, Daniel broke down, all the suppressed pain pouring out in angry tears. "How do I know you won't leave again?" he shouted. "How do I know that the moment things get hard, you won't run?" Emma held him through his tears, letting him release 3 years of anguish. "You don't know," she said honestly, "and I can't promise I'll be perfect. But I can promise that I will never run away again. I will fight for us, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. That's the difference between who I was and who I am now." A year after Emma's return, Daniel stood at the same bridge where he had thrown away the ring. But this time, Emma was beside him, her hand in his. "I need to tell you something," Daniel said, his heart pounding. "When I threw that ring in the water, I thought I was letting go of you forever. But maybe I was just letting go of the pain, the bitterness, the version of us that wasn't ready. Maybe some things need to fall apart so they can come back together stronger." He pulled out a new ring, different from the first, but even more beautiful. "I'm not the same person who bought that first ring. And you're not the same person who walked away. We're better, we're stronger, we're real. Emma, will you marry me?" Through happy tears, Emma said yes. They held each other as the sun set over the water, two people who had traveled through darkness to find their way back to the light. The story of Daniel and Emma teaches us that sometimes love isn't about holding on tight. Sometimes it's about letting go, trusting that what's meant to be will find its way back. Healing isn't linear, and second chances aren't about forgetting the past, but about growing from it. Daniel had to let go to truly find himself again, and Emma had to lose everything to understand what mattered. Their story reminds us that the end of one chapter isn't always the end of the story. If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe for more tales of hope, healing, and the unexpected ways life brings us exactly what we need. Share this with someone who needs to hear that it's okay to let go and that sometimes, just sometimes, love finds a way back home.